We've now arrived at the level on the pyramid of guitar music theory where we can start directly applying what we learn to writing songs. In this short video, we're going to take a brief look at diatonic chord sequence structure. The word diatonic here means using only the notes of the major scale. If we refer back to what we looked at a couple of levels ago and take the notes of the G major scale and pile them up on each other like this, we produce a series of chords that we describe as being diatonic to the key of G major. Now I can play these chords as a sort of scale: G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F sharp diminished, G. And you can hear that they belong together very nicely and flow naturally from one to another. Now and then you will hear a song constructed to use the chords of the key in exactly this order. My favourite example of this is Bob Dylan's song I Shall Be Released. So you've got chord 1, G, chord 2, A minor, chord 3, B minor, chord 4, C, chord 5, D, that's chord 1. But songs like these are the exception rather than the rule. In most cases, the way songs are constructed works by dividing the 6 main chords of the key into 2 groups. The 3 major chords, those built on steps 1, 4 and 5 of the scale, are called primary chords. And the 3 minor chords built on the 2nd, 3rd and 6th steps of the scale are referred to as secondary chords. Now you may have noticed that I haven't mentioned the 7th and 8th chords. Well, the 8th chord is effectively the same as the key chord, just an octave higher. So in this discussion we think of that as one of the primary chords. And the 7th chord is effectively made redundant because the 5th chord actually does a better job of fulfilling its function of leading back to the key chord. So here's the 7th chord in the key of G, F sharp diminished triad. And you can hear how that leads very nicely back to the G. But listen to how the D major, the 5th chord, leads back, and it's even better. So that D chord effectively replaces the need to ask for the diminished triad in a rhythm chart. The primary chords are so called because they, more often than not, form the basic structural framework of the chord sequence. If you watched the last lesson in this mini-series, the one on cadences, then you'll already have some idea of what we're saying here. Songs are often built around sequences that have a kind of circular feel to them. So, for example, I might start with 2 bars of G, then change to C and D. So here you can hear I'm establishing the key with those first 2 bars of G. Then the movement up to the 4th chord, C in this case, introduces a degree of tension which is then ramped up to the maximum by moving to the 5th chord, D in this case. This 5th chord, known as the dominant chord of the key, practically demands that we move back to the key chord, thus completing the circle. And that's the authentic cadence at work. So that one simple sequence really showcases the functioning of the 3 primary chords. Now if we want to, we could add in one of the secondary chords. Adding in the secondary chords has the effect of smoothing out the sequence, a little like rounding off the edges of a block of wood with sandpaper. Let's replace the second bar G with a 2 chord, for example, A minor. Or with the 3 chord, B minor. Or the 6 chord, E minor. That each of these secondary chords adds a slightly different flavour, but that none of them disturb the basic circular sense of flow that's dictated by the primary chords. Now, as with all creative processes, less is often better than more, but in theory we could go on adding more secondary chords to this sequence to smooth it out even further. Now, a good trick in choosing chords is to pick those that are 5 steps above the following chord. So before the E minor chord I could interject a B minor chord, because we've got E, F, G, A, B is 5 steps above E. So that would sound like this. And then before the D, I could interject an A minor, because D, E, F, G, A. A is 5 steps above the D. So that would sound like this. So altogether we'd have all 6 of the basic chords, diatonic to the key, squeezed into one line. But I hope you can hear that the addition of the secondary chords has not significantly altered the circular feeling of flow of the sequence. But supposing I want to end the circle off and give the sequence a sense of coming to its conclusion. Well, the trick is to work backwards. Now I know I want to end up with the key chord G. So first thing I do is replace that final D with a G. Now I ask myself, what's 5 steps above G? G, A, B, C, D. So I replace the A minor in the second to last bar with a D. So now I end up with this as my last line. So now we have a whole 16-bar sequence that could be used as a verse or a chorus for a song. On part 3 of the Guitar Music Theory course, we go over this whole subject of diatonic chord sequence structure in great detail. And we pass on a whole lot of tips and tricks to help you write songs that immediately sound good and have a real musical flow to them. So why not head over to the Secret Guitar Teacher site now and take advantage of our free trial membership. See you again soon.